Back in the summer of 2008, I did a near 30-minute review on the first season of Ikki Tousen, saying that the anime was a big pile of garbage, with too much inappropriately used fan service, weak characters, and a series about quote-unquote fighters who possessed the souls of the warriors of the Three Kingdoms era. There was very little to none of that going on. So yeah, I hated it. Still do, actually. However, for reasons obviously known, fanservice, the series continued on for 3 more series by the time this review was uploaded, and I had no intentions on checking out the rest of the series at all. If I hated it enough, I'd drop it early on, despite my masochistic nature when it comes to bad anime. However, a friend of mine by the name of Lance Echidna recommended me watching Ikki Tousen Dragon Destiny, thinking that I would like it. I did trust the guy well enough and went out of my way to buy the complete series, same time I picked up Summer Wars. Now, most people are expecting me to rip this season as hard as I did the first one, and there are some parts that I do want to tear down. But I got something shocking to say for those who followed me and my little diatribe against the series for a while. Ikki Tousen Dragon Destiny. Is it better than the first season? Yes. Is it a good anime? No. But did I still like it? Yes. You heard me. Despite the flaws that really punch down the quality of this series and my complete lack of optimism I expressed in an earlier video, I did find the show very fun to watch at the end, and it did offer some of the minimum requirements I wanted out of liking an anime. Ikki Tousen Dragon Destiny is a 12-episode fan-service action anime from the Studio Arms in 2007, and licensed and distributed in the US under Media Blasters. The story revolves around a high school territorial gang war in the Kanto region of Japan, fueled from the people who bear sacred beads, or magatamas, that contain the spirits of powerful warriors from the Three Kingdoms era in China, and they are called fighters. This season continues where the first one left off, from the death of Totaku, the antagonist from the previous season. With Totaku's fall, only 3 schools remain fighting for complete dominance. There's Nanyo Academy, led by Hakufu Sonsaku, the protagonist of the first season. They represent the Wu Kingdom. There's Kyosho Academy, led by Motoku Soso. They're the primary antagonists for this season, and they represent the Wei Kingdom. And then there's Sato High School, led by Gentoko Ryubi. They're also the protagonists of this season, and they represent the Kingdom of Shu. By the way, on a side note, I'm not that much of an aficionado of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel. Honestly, I've yet to read it, nor am I familiar with the actual events that happened during the Han Dynasty, so I can't judge hardcore on the accuracy of the characters' fates portrayed in the series. In fact, my knowledge of that series goes no farther than Dynasty Warrior 7. Great game, though. Great game. Anyways, moving on with the plot. Shime Ryomo from Nanyo Academy visits Han Kan to obtain the Dragon Jade, a mystical orb that has the ability to alter the fates of the fighters, and it's also the series' main plot device. She manages to hold on to it despite a couple attempts from a Kyosho assassin named Kakuen. Meanwhile, Kyosho Academy, with the help of Rakio's Bunwa Kaku, has been controlling the other schools and slowly gaining dominance. And with Sato, we get a reintroduction to Unchu Kanu from the first series, as well as being introduced to Gentoko Ryubi, the leader of Sato, and Ekitoku Chohi. With the Sato plot, man, there's a lot of shit going on with the Sato plot. We have Kanu and Chohi who wish to be better protectors for Ryubi. We have Ryubi who has to take up responsibility of being the leader of Sato, much to her dismay. And then later in the series, we get introduced to Kome Shokatsu, who harbors the spirit of Zhuge Liang, the master tactician of the Shu Kingdom. She ended up having Nanyo framed for a murder of one of Kyosho's students. That way, Kyosho and Nanyo can butt heads at each other over this particular incident, and have Sato ally themselves with Nanyo. Most of these situations build up to their version of the Battle of Red Cliffs, aka the Battle of Chibi, at the end of the season. So the plot did get my interest a hell of a lot more than the first season's, but it has its downfalls, such as introducing too many characters. Some of them I actually recall not doing much in the first place. Plus, there is a lot of politics and dialogue thrown in the anime, which I find kinda laughable considering what kind of show this is. The art and animation is done by Arms, who's really famous to work on later other heavily ecchi based shows, such as Queen's Blade. Makes sense. Makes total sense. No objections here. In fact, I'd say the quality improved over the first season's art and animation pretty well. Character designs, while they still can be recognizable to those who have seen the first season, have underwent some slight changes. For example, Hakufu's hair looks smoother and has some kind of antenna thing going on, and Gakushu, who went from a gigantic, overly muscular tan guy to a still big but not as muscular, very dark-skinned fellow. And that's probably the biggest character design change in the series as well. Everything looks vivid and colorful in comparison to the first season. As for the animation, well, it does make me wish for more of it. It actually has animation. Some of the fight scenes, though filled with excessive fan service that drives anime fans away in crowds, were pretty damn brutal and enjoyable. I just wish they were just a tad bit longer. The music was composed by Yasuharu Takanashi, who also did the music for Gantz, and the English dub was done by Media Blasters, which is a New York City-based cast. You may recognize them for doing dubs like Amagasa TV series and Genshiken, and if you don't, then sadly you might know them for voicing various anime from 4Kids. The music in this season had some memorable scores, and I did like the opening theme song, Heart and Soul, and some of the music did sound pretty action-packed and exciting for some of the heavily action-based scenes. Actually, it had some rock music in it that kinda did remind me of the music from the Dynasty Warriors soundtrack. However, there was this one suspense song in the anime that kept playing in several episodes, and I found it pretty annoying, and the ending credits song didn't leave an impact on me. As for the English dub, just like the animation studio changing completely, the English dub has an entirely new cast apart from the Geneon dub in the first season. Another mixed bag for me. Kanu sounded very wooden, which is sad because she was like one of my favorite characters in that series, and Kaku, who went from having a young authoritarian voice, sounded very quietish, almost making her out to be a completely different character. Everyone else did sound like that they were retaining the original dub's direction. However, there were some slight pronunciation changes as well. Like, Koken's name was pronounced Kokine by Hakufu, and I think Saito was like pronounced as Seito from time to time. Or maybe that's just my ears, I don't know. The dub, it matches with the quality of the anime, so it's not the greatest dub ever. It's still pretty bad dub, but it is a step up from Geneon's dub. But I am going to list some memorable and favorite VAs I've spotted in this dub. We have Michael Pollock voicing Suikyo, the old guy from the Seito High School. As shockingly enough, he actually voiced 3 roles in the first episode, so that came off as lazy dubbing for me. It's a good thing 2 of the characters I voiced were very minor. Then we have Veronica Taylor, best known for voicing Ash Ketchum and Amelia Seirun from Slayers. She voices Ryubi. She did a good job for it. Then there's Jessica Calvello as Ekitoku Chohi. It was interesting to see one of my favorite VAs from ADV returning, considering that she nearly destroyed her voice when she voiced Excel. And then there's Dan Green as the main antagonist, Motoku Soso. Alright. So, closing thoughts. Ikki Tousen Dragon Destiny may not change everyone else's minds who've seen and disliked the first part of the anime. Despite some quality improvements, the excessive fan service is still there, and if that was a major turnoff for them previously, it's going to be just as difficult to mow through here. But I, however, managed to pull through and enjoyed it. Liked the music, liked most of the characters of the series. I will list who I like and explain my reasons why in another video. The animation was really good, big step up this time. And some of the parts that were bad, I actually did find myself laughing at them, and if I do laugh, I can tell you at least I'm enjoying myself. To put this in rank of other edgy combat shows I've been noticing lately, I would say it's better than what I saw from Queen's Blade, Sekirei, and Samurai Girls. But that's just from watching about 2 to 3 episodes each, so my opinion's still bound to change for further viewings. Hell, if you could convince me to watch more of any of those shows I listed, or if you have another show that's in that similar category that you could recommend to me, comment or video response explain why. However, as most action anime, it still doesn't hold up in that category up there. I still think it's not as good as Air Master, which is basically nothing but martial arts and people beating the crap out of each other. So my recommendation goes to people who did at least like the first season of Ikki Tousen. I can't find anything you would hate in the second season that would turn you off if you enjoyed the first one. And I can also recommend it to those who are merciful enough to give it a second chance. Everyone else, I guess you could say you could skip it for all I care. I could also recommend this to those who want to see a hilariously retelling of the Three Kingdoms era if you're like that big of a Three Kingdoms fan. So yeah, that is my review of Ikki Tousen Dragon Destiny, but I'm not done talking about this season. I still have a lot more to explain about the series, pro and con wise, about specifics in story and animation, trying to show you in detail what I loved and hated about this show. This review was just basically meant to be a basic, non-spoiler review. I will make some future video responses, or maybe just a response, explaining why I did like this series, because a lot of people will probably be surprised from this review and what I said. So, if you don't care about spoilers, or if you've already seen Season 2 and you want to see what I had to think, tune into Part 2.